Hello. Today we're going to talk about the distributive property. The distributive property is useful in helping us to do more mental math with multiplying larger numbers. That way we can break things apart and make it easier. So distributing is something as you separate or break it into parts. The distributive property lets you multiply a sum by multiplying each addend separately and then add the products. It's multiplication basically over addition, or we can also show multiplication over subtraction, which subtraction is addition of the opposite. Okay, let's look at example 1, and we're going to do this problem using distribution with addition. 8 times 35, we can do that longhand on paper and probably be real successful at getting the answer. But to do this a more quicker, efficient way and using mental math, let's break up this 35 into two numbers using addition. So, one of the easiest things that we could think of is using 30 and 5 powers of 10. Because if I multiply by something that's a multiple, not a power, a multiple of 10, then it's fairly easy. If you see here, 8 times 30 plus 5 is written as 30 plus 5. Well, I can do 8 times 30, and I know that gives me, 8 times 3 is 24. So 8 times 30 is 240. I could also do 8 times 5, because remember I have to do 8 times 35. So that's 8 times 30 and plus 8 times 5. Well, 8 times 5 is going to be 40. And look how easy it is to add 240 plus 40, and I get 280. So the distributive property really helps me to multiply these two numbers or factors to get this product of 280 in a little bit of an easier way. Let's try the same process, distribution, but this time let's use subtraction. I still have my 35, 8 times 35, but instead of making a 35 into two numbers added together, I'm going to make a 35 into two numbers that are subtracted from each other. So I'm going to have to go higher than 35, and I also want to do a multiple of 10. So I'm going to, because those are easy, I'm going to do 40 minus 5. Because 40 minus 5 is the same thing as 35. So if I want to do this mentally, and I'm going to show my work, I can do 8 times 40, which is 8 times 4 is 32, 320. And I could also do 8 times 5, because 40 minus 5 gives me that 35. So I have to subtract here. I'm going to take 8 times 40 and take away the 8 times 5, which 8 times 5 is 40. So 320 minus 40, well, if I take 20 away, I get 300. And take another 20 away to make that 40, I get 280. Notice I have the same answer here. Now it is the same problem, but we separated and broke 35 into parts using addition and subtraction. Okay, let's go down here to example 3 and look at this one. And we're going to distribute using addition. So 4 times, what do you think I could do to 53? How can I break it into two parts using addition? Think about using a multiple of 10. Okay, how about 50 and 3? 50 plus 3 is 53. So I'm going to do 4 times 50, and I'm also going to do 4 times 3, and I'm going to add those together. Here's my plus. That gives me 4 times 53. 4 times 50, 4 times 5 is 20. That's 10 times more, so 10 times more is 200. And 4 times 3 is 12. So 4 times 50 and 4 times 3 gives me 212, which is 4 times 53. Now, if you want to put that in your calculator and check it to make sure if you're not certain to get 212, go ahead and do that. And, by all means, you can check this 8 times 35 above to see if we get 280. Okay, let's do this one over here using subtraction. So what two numbers, how can I break apart 27 into 2 parts using subtraction? And again, try to think of a multiple of 10 that I could use and take something away to make 27. Okay, if you said 30 minus 3, that would be a good example. 30 minus 3 is 27. So I'm going to distribute the 4 times the 30, and I'm going to distribute the 4 to the 3, and 30 minus 3 is 27, so I have to take these two products and subtract them. So 4 times 3 is 12. This is 10 times more. So 10 times 12 is 120. 4 times 3 is 12. And I'm subtracting those. If I want to think of 12 as 10 and 2, I could take 10 and 2 away from 120. So 120 minus 10 is 110. And take away another 2, that'll give me 108. Okay, we're going to step this up just a little bit, and this time let's put in a negative. Okay, I'm still going to take this negative 7 and I'm going to distribute that or multiply that to 24 that I'm going to break into 2 parts using addition. So what 2 numbers could I add together to make a 24? And if you said 20 plus 4, that's great. So I'm going to take the negative 7 and distribute it or multiply it to the 20. And plus, I'm going to take this negative 7, and I'm going to put it in parentheses here since I have this plus sign with no other number, and distribute that over to the 4. Okay, so negative 7 times 20 is negative 140. And negative 7 times 4, that's negative 28. And I'm going to go ahead again and put that in parentheses because of that plus sign. And you guys know what negative plus negative is. So I add those together, and that's 168 negatives. Okay, let's do one more over here. I've got negative 12 times 28. So I'm going to keep this negative 12, and I'm going to multiply it to the 28, but we're going to separate the 28 using subtraction. So what 2 numbers could I use to get a 28? Good. If you said 30 minus 2, that's 28. So let's distribute the negative 12 to the 30. So I'm going to multiply negative 12 times 30. Now notice here I'm not going to put a plus sign because I wrote 28 using subtraction. So I'm going to bring down this subtraction sign. And I'm going to distribute the negative 12 to the 2. Now, this negative in front of the 12 is not this right here. This is the minus sign when we separated the 28 by 30 minus 2. So this is a minus. I've got to bring over a negative 12 and then multiply that by this 2. So, when these negatives are involved, we've got to be very careful and be, really cautious on what we're putting down. Okay, let's multiply negative 12 times 30. Well, negative 12 times 3 is, 36, negative, times 10. So this is negative 360. And I'm going to bring this minus down. And I'm going to multiply negative 12 times 2. And that gives me, correct, negative 24. Very good. Okay, now let's do my subtraction problem. We know that subtraction is addition of the opposite. So I'm going to rewrite, and this is going to be subtracting turns into addition. The opposite of a negative 24 is a positive 24. And here I have a negative and a positive. The signs are different, and we already know you find the difference. So the difference between 360 and 24, well, I could break this up again. I could take 360 minus 20 is 340, take away another 4, and that would be 336. And since I have more negatives than positives in value, my answer is negative 336. Okay, now, I would like for you to go ahead and try the next 6 problems on your own. And when you are finished, please check with the teacher before we move on to the next step. If you have questions, make sure you please ask.